For many of us, Christmas is a time of year that holds some of our dearest memories. We're introduced as kids to this season that brings our loved ones together and is filled with celebration. We sang songs, set up nativities, decorated houses. We learned Christmas is actually a real story with shepherds, wise men, Joseph and Mary. The story of when God the Father gave his son. I want to show my kids the real story of Christmas this Advent season. And honestly, I don't know what this will mean for our family. I hope it changes the way we spend money, who we bless, the type of gifts we give, and just how we talk and think about Jesus. The story of Christmas isn't told with free 2-day shipping or Black Friday deals. The story of Christmas changed the world. So, shouldn't it change us?
Good evening. Welcome to Ripon Community Church. I'm feeling like I want to go back to like 3 minutes ago because that was out of this world. It was heavenly. It was amazing. I think we should give them a round of applause again. Most of all, because I think they led us incredibly well to worship, and that was a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's stripped away. It's moving towards something really important. It's this, like Adam was talking about, this stripped away reality of what we're celebrating this season. We're in a series right now called Advent Conspiracy, and it's a series all about getting those things out of Advent and the lead up to Christmas that don't necessarily belong, or that maybe distract from the main point of what this is all about. And all of the hoopla and fun of the Christmas season that we've all come to expect, all of it is fun, and it's not necessarily evil or bad or any of those kinds of things. But it's important to strip some of those things away and focus on this amazing thing, this amazing gift that we're given at Christmas time. So that's what we're doing. Today we're talking about giving more. And it's not about money, so you can rest about that right now, so you don't have to worry about giving more money, though that's a good thing to do and all. But it's about giving, and we're going to be talking about some really amazing things with that. But before we get into it, would you all take a moment and pray with me? Dear God, thank you for this night. Thank you for that time of worship. Thank you for that chance to just sing to you. Tonight, God, we're looking at this story of yours, the story of your son being born and what it represents, the giving it represents. So tonight, as we think about that, God, I ask that you would help us to focus on those things. Focus on those things that matter the most in giving and what you've given to us and what we can give to others. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. So, there's this story, and I think most of you know it. At least I would guess that most of you know it. It's the story of a young woman, who has this wild interaction. But before we get to that, she's actually betrothed to be married to this man named Joseph, this young woman named Mary. And she's betrothed to be married to him, and all of a sudden there's this angel that shows up one day. And as he shows up to her doorsteps and begins talking with her, she finds out from this angel that she's about to give birth. She's going to give birth to this son that's going to be called the Son of God. And it's all overwhelming to her. She's taken aback. She does, how can this be? How is this going to happen? And she finds out. And she believes that that's actually going to happen. And so she says, may it happen as you want it to happen. But then she realizes, oh my goodness, I have a guy I'm going to be marrying like really soon. That's going to be an interesting conversation. And so she has the conversation, and I think Joseph, I'm sure, must have thought she's crazy. But shortly thereafter, he has this interaction with this angel as well and finds out that baby really is from God. And so instead of just quietly divorcing her like he was planning on, or letting it just go away, he goes through with the marriage. And at this time, as they're getting ready to have this baby, they find out that they're supposed to be going by this royal decree to go to the place of their ancestors, which is David, their ancestor. So they head to Bethlehem, and they're going there. They go to Bethlehem, and they find themselves there, and they're trying to get a room, right? And everything's just completely and utterly booked up, and they get to a place, and finally they find basically a stable to have the baby in. So there they are, and they're in Bethlehem, and the verses go like this. It says, "And while they were there, the time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him snugly in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no lodging available for them." And the story continues, and we hear about shepherds, and we hear about wise men. And you know the story, right? The story's pretty familiar. You've heard it dozens and dozens of times before, and that's the story, but what's the story about? Like, really, what exactly is the story about? Why is it the story that we're supposed to know? I think it's because the story is the story of God. Like, God. Emmanuel is the word you probably heard before. God with us, God being here, God showing up on earth in human form. That's a crazy story. That's a crazy story. And he shows up as a baby, an infant. You ever think about that very much? A baby. Guys, a baby. Isn't that cute? Like, that's the sweetest picture I could find. That's a baby. It's probably a lot dirtier in that stable, but a baby, right? He shows up as a baby, the literal most vulnerable thing possible. Like, most animal babies are a whole lot less vulnerable. They're like moving around and stuff. Us babies, human babies, are incredibly vulnerable. Like, we need our parents and our mother for everything. Everything for a really long time. We're totally helpless. We're utterly dependent. We cannot survive without our parents. A baby. A baby. That's how God came, as a helpless, totally dependent, utterly in need baby. Completely and utterly vulnerable. Isn't that just the most absurd thing you ever heard? God as a baby. Really, think about it. A baby. God made himself that vulnerable. Now, that word vulnerable, is a word that I think most guys don't really like to hear. It's like a swear word. For most guys, like, you even say the word and some of us clam up, like we go into our shell of a turtle, like, and we just hope nobody notices that we've gone missing, and we hope for the moment to pass, and we think, like, I just don't want to be vulnerable. Whatever that means, I just don't want to be it. And what you need to know, ladies, is you need to know that guys don't mind being vulnerable. Like, we're okay with it. I've had tons of conversations with guys that are real and raw and very, like, honest conversations. Just don't call it vulnerable, okay? Don't use the word. And if you use the word, it ruins the moment. It messes it all up, so just avoid the word vulnerable when you're trying to have those kinds of conversations. Here's your tip. But back to Jesus for a second. Don't you think that it's wild that baby is how he came to earth? I mean, a teenage mom carrying a baby that's not her husband's, and they're so irresponsible that they don't even have a room. They can't even secure a room. That's how it looks. That's how Jesus came. God, Jesus, came to this world as a vulnerable little baby. Why would he do that? Why? Before we answer that question, let's take a moment and let's think about all of you for a second, okay? So I'm going to ask you to do something. To get your imagination cap on, remember when your teacher used to tell that? Like, put your imagination hat on. I want you to be able to think with me for just a second here. Imagine a person and then kind of a circumstance with that person. I want you to roll with me here. So first, I want you to imagine a particular person. It's a person that you are just extremely close to. And that person is someone that you care about, that you love to be with. It could be a spouse, it could be a friend, a parent, a son or daughter. It could be any person that you just feel like you're super, super close to that person. They matter to you. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question. What made you so close? What brought you so close together? What just firmed up that relationship? I'm willing to bet as you think about it that the people that you're closest to, those people are people that you have gone through some serious mess with, some hard times with, some difficulties with, some serious life with. They've been with you through it. And as you went through that, as you came to that moment where you realized you were just real with each other, you had to be in order to keep moving forward. You had to be. It bonded you. At some point, because of life circumstances, you were forced to be, wait for it, vulnerable with each other. And that's what made your relationship so incredibly solid, rock hard, the thing that's lasted. It's hard. It's hard to be in a relationship with someone or have a relationship with someone that you don't trust. It's hard to trust someone who hasn't been real or vulnerable with you. It's also hard to be real or vulnerable with someone unless they've lived some life with you. Those are all true things. Which really answers our question, doesn't it? Like in the end, it really does answer our question. The question of why did Jesus come to this world in such a vulnerable way? It's because Jesus came to give us the best gift he could possibly give us. Himself. Him. Said better than that, Jesus came to give us the gift of us really knowing him and his character, knowing he could be trusted. Because Jesus experienced life. He, along with his disciples, were pushed and prodded and beaten and marginalized and made fun of and harassed and spit on. And they went through some life together. And all the while, Jesus was exactly who he said he was. The entire time. Jesus was unflinchingly himself, unavoidably God in human form. Jesus has given all of us the gift of vulnerability, of himself. By Jesus being human and enduring each situation that he did, we are given the opportunity to have a real and trusting and honest and close relationship with the creator of the universe. Not just some person, but with the creator of the universe. Doesn't that just blow your mind? It's crazy. It's the craziest gift. I mean, when you think about it, people think it's amazing to have a relationship with maybe kind of a more famous person. Like, people in Wisconsin would do so much to have a relationship with this guy, right? Aaron Rodgers, if you could have the ability to call him up and say, hey, yo, Aaron, let's go grab some pizza tonight, and for him to come and hang out and have pizza, you'd pay a lot of money to do that. I'm betting a lot of you would definitely do that. Or how about this person, Oprah? If you would want to have ability to go and hang out at one of her mansions somewhere and hang out by the water and just sit and drink iced teas by the water somewhere with her and chat it up, some of you would be like, I'm all over that. This is my girl. Let's go have some iced teas by the water. I don't know why I made that up, but it's interesting. Or Bill Gates, right? To have a relationship with Bill Gates, imagine the possibilities. Or Taylor Swift, if you're into that sort of thing. Anything right? There's those people that you absolutely would love to have a relationship with. They're great people. Why wouldn't you spend time with them? It'd be awesome. But none of them are God. Maybe we think of them as God sometimes, but none of them are God. Not even close. The following isn't written about any of them. It's written about Jesus. It says, in the beginning, the Word, Jesus, already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him, and nothing was created except through him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. In fancy theology speak, that means the one through whom everything was created came and lived here. Here with us. And he can be your most trusted confidant, or confidant, whatever you say that word, but confidant, I'm going to go with that one. Advocate, friend, leader, and he can be any of those things and so much more, all because he became human, lived some real and honest, serious life, possessed unflinching character, and suffered greatly, all for you. All for you. For every last one of us. Jesus, on Christmas, because he's here, offered the gift of friendship with God. Friendship with God, he gave himself. And Jesus even says, like the literal word friend, he says this in John 15:15. He says, I no longer call you slaves because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends, since I have told you everything the Father told me. Jesus, in his revealing of God's ways to us and his teaching us, he becomes our friend. Jesus is your friend. That's a crazy gift. That's a wild gift. I don't think we ever really fully understand how amazing of a gift that is. It's the best gift possible. Now, speaking of gifts, I'm wondering if any of you have seen this commercial yet. Take a look.
You drop the bomb. You drop the bomb on me, baby. You drop the bomb on me. Oh, you drop the bomb on me, baby. You drop the bomb on me. You turn me on, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me.
Have any of you seen it? Raise your hand. A couple of you have, yes? Okay. I can't stand that commercial, okay? It drives me nuts, and it's not for the reason that you probably think. It's not just because it glorifies getting gifts. I can't stand it because, did you see their faces? They were so surprised, completely. Their faces are blowing up inside. It's wild, and that puts a lot of pressure on me. Think about it. When you get gifts, you gotta act surprised so that they get that feeling. Does any of you, any others of you feel that way? When you get socks from grandma, you're like, oh, I gotta look that way, right? Raise your hands. You can raise your hand. So I feel like we should all just take a moment right now and practice our surprise faces. I'll go first, right? Or, that's pretty good, right? Okay, you guys gotta outdo me later, okay? Get your surprise face on. I think that's pretty good. But really, Walmart almost gets it right. Christmas is absolutely about giving more. I mean, you have the wise men and the gifts and all that sort of thing, but that and the gift thing, it cannot be the main thing. It just can't. Just giving gifts feels pretty empty a few days later when all the wrapping paper is being chucked out on the street into the garbage can waiting to get picked up. There's got to be more to give than that. So much more. And I don't mean more gifts. I don't think we can make Christmas more meaningful and more purpose-filled by getting more or giving more gifts. They're just not going to be enough. I mean, gifts are fun. I love gifts. The gifts are great. But they can't be the main thing. You can't find a gift at Walmart or Amazon or Target or wherever that's a better gift than the one we received at Christmas in Jesus. You cannot give a better gift than a trustworthy, raw, real, vulnerable, and saving relationship with Jesus. It's not possible. But if that's the best gift that we received at Christmas, then what is the best gift we can give? What is it? Now, guys, earlier I gave you a bit of a hard time about being vulnerable and talking about that and getting weirded out and hiding your shell, but I'm going to give you some props right now, okay? Because if you've been married, then you have done something that is really just one of the biggest deals. There's this time in your life that you gave this gift in the most pure possible way that you just don't even know it, all right? Because there's this one time where there is this girl, and man, she's smelled good. She was beautiful. You just wanted to be around her. You did like weird things to like spend time closer to her. You made excuses to be by her. You took her out on dates. You spent all of your money on her. You did all kinds of crazy things. And then this one time you got this idea, like this wild, fanatical idea that you should go buy a ring, okay? And so you go to the jewelry store, you get a ring, and you plan this thing out, and maybe it's really simple, or maybe it's extravagant, doesn't really matter. Because at one point, then you decided that you were going to get down on one knee, and you were going to ask that girl to marry you. And in that moment, you're probably shaking like crazy, nervous, heart pumping out of your chest. You were nervous because you know why? She could have said no. She could have said no. Like in that moment, you put yourself in an incredibly vulnerable position. A position where she held all the cards. And it was scary and it could have been a lot of hurt, or maybe there was a lot of hurt, but you did it. You gave someone a similar gift to what Jesus gave us, a vulnerable offer to accept the gift of himself. It says this in Philippians 2, 6-8. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on a cross. He was as humble and vulnerable as it gets. All for this purpose, it states in John 3:16, for God loved the world so much that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. That's the kind of gift Jesus gave. This Christmas, if you want to give the best gift, a gift that will mean something long after that wrapping paper gets loaded up onto the garbage truck, give that kind of gift. Give the gift of you, of yourself. It's the best gift you can give. And let me tell you, it is not an easy gift. You may think it's an easy gift, but it is not an easy gift. It'll cost you something. But it's a gift worth giving. Now, to do that, I think there are some ways that we can actually give that gift. It can start by this thing that you put in your pocket that has like a world of things that your eyes dart to and then seemingly get lost in for hours and hours at a time while people are talking to you and you don't even realize it. You know that thing? You're laughing or not laughing because you realize this thing, and it's weird, right? I know it's hard, but we all know we spend so much time looking at this thing and we get distracted. It's just for Christmas, put it in a box, lock it up. Or you know what would be really cool? There's this button here that you hold down for a long time. The phone actually turns off. Not just for a second to turn the screen off. You hold it down and it says powering down and it says, okay, I can do that. When was the last time you powered off your phone? Most of you just keep it on all the time. What if you did that for Christmas? It would be awesome, right? For one day, put it off, just do that thing and leave it somewhere else. I think we know that one though. Honestly, we know that one. So in addition to that, you can maybe just show up. You can be where other people are. You can be where the people in your life are that matter. So you just put yourself in that position. And I think that's good. I think putting the phone away and showing up are two amazing things that you can do to give yourself this Christmas, that gift. But I think for a lot of us, we know those. We know both of those. We're smart people. We know what we probably should be doing. We're going to do those things. We're going to take that step. So instead of that one simple suggestion, one thing to really give yourself with this year, one thing that I think you can actually do and focus on as you're trying to do those two things to help you actually give yourself, the one thing you can do this year is this. It's very simple. It's see. S-E-E-C. Slow down long enough this Christmas to see the people and their needs and their desires. In order to give yourself, you first need to see what's needed around you. And as you do that, I'm going to give you some examples of some things you might see are needed. You might see someone who needs someone to talk to. You might see someone who needs the dishes done, and that would be awesome. You might see someone that needs some wrestling with, some little kiddos that you need to roll around on the floor with for a little while. You might see some people that need to be noticed because they put in a whole bunch of extra effort and they're wondering if anybody's going to notice the effort that they put in. Or maybe it's that person over in the corner at the holiday gathering that just kind of sits there alone and is hoping someone talks to them. You could see them too. But see, open your eyes to what's needed around you, really needed, not just covering things up or making yourself look busy, but see what's really needed. Give yourself this Christmas by seeing. Jesus saw more completely than any of us ever can. Jesus saw what was needed of him. So much so that he went to the cross and he gave his life for us. That's how much he saw. Before he did that, he gave us something, though, in addition to that, to remember how much he was physically here and gave himself. There came this point in his ministry where he knew he was about to end up on the cross and give himself in this literal fashion for us. And so he gave us something to remember him by and remember that act by. It's something called communion. And so we're going to take a moment and remember just how much he literally was here and gave himself and saw our needs by celebrating communion. The hosts are going to be grabbing it in a second here, and they're going to be coming forward, and we're going to be handing out both the bread and the juice to celebrate this gift that he gives. But as we do this, I just want you to think about a couple of things. Number one, that was an amazing gift. And if you have accepted that gift, we would love for you to participate in this act of communion. If you're not sure, like if you haven't yet, feel free. This is a safe place where you can keep on figuring that out, but don't feel weird about passing it by. That's totally fine. But this is a place where we can, if we believe in him, can celebrate that act together. So, as you're here, they're going to come forward in a second, and there's going to be some music. We're going to pass those two things out, and then if you would hold on to both of them, and then at the end we'll talk about what that means together and partake in the two things together. Thank you.